My mother-in-law taught my daughter to curse at me. She ran away crying when my daughter called her the word she hated the most. It began with small things like teaching Lily to call me lazy when I sat down after work. Dottie would whisper to Lily, and then Lily would run over and say, "Mommy is lazy," then run back to Grandma for a high five. I told Dottie to stop immediately, and she said she was just playing and I needed to lighten up. She said children need to express themselves freely, and I was stifling Lily's personality by being so strict about language. My husband Adam thought it was harmless and said his mom was just having fun with her granddaughter. The next week, Dottie taught Lily worse words. Lily came home from Grandma's house and called me stupid when I said it was bedtime. She said Grandma told her she didn't have to listen to stupid rules. I confronted Dottie, who laughed and said kids will learn these words anyway, so why not from family? She said I was overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. She told Adam that I was trying to keep her from bonding with Lily, and he asked me to be more flexible about his mother's different parenting style. By March, it had escalated to actual curse words. Lily called me the B word when I wouldn't give her candy before dinner. She said it clearly and proudly like she'd been practicing. I asked where she learned that, and she said Grandma taught her the special word for when Mommy is being mean. I called Dottie immediately, and she pretended to be shocked. She said Lily must have heard it somewhere else and was blaming her. But Lily was specific that Grandma had taught her exactly when to use it. Dottie then changed her story and said maybe she'd said it accidentally while driving, and Lily overheard. I told Adam his mother was deliberately teaching our daughter to disrespect me. He said I was being paranoid and his mother would never do that intentionally. He suggested Lily was just going through a phase and we should ignore it. But I knew better because Lily only used these words with me, never with Adam or anyone else. She was being specifically trained to target me. I tried limiting Dottie's unsupervised time with Lily, but Adam said I was being controlling and punishing his mother unfairly. He insisted on maintaining their weekly overnight visits despite my concerns. After each visit, Lily came back with new inappropriate words and phrases specifically aimed at me. Dottie had taught her to say I was mean, unfair, boring, and that Daddy should find a better mommy. The worst part was that Dottie would act innocent when confronted and say she had no idea where Lily was learning such terrible things. She'd offer to help discipline Lily for the language she herself had taught. She'd sit Lily down and say we don't use those words while winking at her. Lily thought it was all a game between her and Grandma against Mommy. That's when I decided to teach Dottie how it felt to have a child disrespect you. I started having private conversations with Lily about Grandma. I taught her that Grandma was old, and that's why she forgot things all the time. I said Grandma needed naps because elderly people get tired easily. I taught Lily to pat Dottie's hand and speak slowly and loudly because Grandma had trouble understanding. Lily started treating Dottie like she was ancient and feeble. She'd yell everything at her and ask if she needed help walking. She'd tell Dottie she looked tired and should rest. She'd explain things multiple times because old people forget. Dottie was furious but couldn't complain without admitting she understood exactly how words could be weaponized through a child. Next, I taught Lily about personal boundaries and privacy. I said some things were just for our house and not for Grandma's house. I taught her to say that's private when Dottie asked about anything. Dottie would ask what we did that day, and Lily would say that's private. Grandma shouldn't be nosy. Dottie asked what Lily wanted for her birthday, and Lily said, that's private information not for Grandma. Every question got the same response until Dottie couldn't have a normal conversation with her granddaughter. I also started teaching Lily about truth and consequences. I explained that sometimes people teach us wrong things, and we need to tell other adults when that happens. The next time Lily was at preschool, she told her teacher that Grandma taught her bad words. The teacher called me concerned, and I explained the situation. The teacher was appalled and said she'd have to report it if it continued. I made sure Dottie knew the preschool was now watching for signs of inappropriate influence. The real consequence came when Adam's sister visited with her kids. Maeve arrived with her husband Ricardo and their two daughters Ingrid and Mildred on a Friday afternoon. They walked through the front door with suitcases and smiles, and Lily ran to greet her cousins. Dottie was already there setting the table for dinner because she always inserted herself into family events. Lily saw her grandma and marched right over. She patted Dottie's arm and spoke very slowly and loudly. "Grandma, you look really tired. Old people need lots of rest. You should go take a nap now." Dottie's face turned red immediately. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out because Maeve was standing right there watching everything. I felt this rush of satisfaction in my chest because Dottie finally experienced what she'd been doing to me. But underneath that satisfaction was something else, something uncomfortable that made my stomach twist. Lily wasn't playing a game anymore. She genuinely believed Grandma was feeble and needed special treatment. What had I done to my own daughter? Maeve's eyes moved from Lily to Dottie to me. Her expression changed from confused to concerned. She didn't say anything right then, just picked up her purse and suggested the girls go play upstairs. Dinner that evening was awkward and tense. We all sat around the table passing dishes and making small talk that felt forced. Lily kept interrupting to help Dottie with everything. She cut Dottie's food into smaller pieces without being asked. She spoke slowly and loudly to explain what each dish was. "This is chicken, Grandma. It's the white meat. Do you remember chicken?" Dottie gripped her fork so hard her knuckles went white. She tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. Ricardo looked confused and kept glancing at Adam for explanation. Ingrid and Mildred giggled at their cousin's weird behavior. Adam stared at his plate and said nothing. I watched it all unfold and felt proud and guilty at the same time. Maeve set down her fork and pushed back from the table. She looked directly at me and said she needed help in the kitchen. It wasn't a question. I followed her through the doorway and she closed the door behind us. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. "What's going on with you and Dottie?" "The tension in there is so thick I can barely breathe, and Lily's behavior seems coached, like someone taught her to act that way." Her voice was quiet but firm. I leaned against the opposite counter and tried to figure out what to say. I couldn't tell her everything because then she'd know what I'd done. So I gave her a version that was true but incomplete. I told her Dottie had been teaching Lily disrespectful words for months. I explained how Lily would come home from Grandma's house with new insults and curse words specifically aimed at me. I described how Dottie would whisper to Lily, and then Lily would run over and call me names. I said I'd tried talking to Adam, but he always defended his mother and said I was overreacting. Maeve's face got more serious with every sentence. She asked if Adam knew about the curse words, and I said yes, but he thought Lily was just going through a phase. Maeve shook her head slowly. She said this wasn't healthy for Lily, and she needed to talk to Adam. She said children shouldn't be caught in the middle of adult conflicts. I nodded and agreed, but inside I felt this growing panic. An outsider was seeing the situation clearly, and it made everything more real. It was easier to justify my revenge when it was just between Dottie and me. But hearing Maeve say it out loud made me realize how messed up the whole thing had become. That night after Maeve's family left for their hotel, Adam came into our bedroom and shut the door hard. His face was tight and angry. He said Maeve had pulled him aside and told him about our conversation. He was mad that I'd made his mother look bad in front of his sister. He said I was trying to turn his whole family against Dottie. Something inside me snapped. I'd been holding back for months trying to be reasonable and calm. But I was done being reasonable. I told him about every single thing his mother had taught our daughter. I listed each word, each insult, each time Lily came home treating me like garbage. I described how Dottie would wink at Lily after pretending to discipline her. I explained how Lily only used these words with me, never with him, because Dottie specifically trained her to target me. I said all of this while he stood there with his mouth slightly open. My voice got louder with each sentence until I was almost yelling. I told him his mother had been weaponizing our daughter against me for months, and he'd done absolutely nothing to stop it. Adam tried to defend his mother again. He said she didn't mean any harm and was just having fun with her granddaughter. He suggested I was being too sensitive about normal kid behavior. I stepped closer to him and kept my voice steady. I said Maeve saw the truth in one dinner while he'd been ignoring it for months. I told him he needed to decide if he was married to me or if he was still trying to please his mother. I said I wasn't going to compete with Dottie for his attention anymore. Either he stood up for his wife and daughter, or I would handle this situation myself. He opened his mouth to respond, but I walked past him into the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the edge of the tub and tried to calm my racing heart. I'd never given him an ultimatum before. I didn't know if he'd choose me or his mother. The next morning, Maeve showed up with Ingrid and Mildred around 9. She said Ricardo had some work calls, so she thought the girls could play together. But I could tell from her face that she was here to observe. She watched everything carefully. Lily and her cousins played with dolls in the living room while the adults sat nearby. Dottie arrived a few minutes later because of course she did. She brought muffins and acted like everything was normal. She sat on the couch and tried to talk to Lily about her toys. She asked what Lily's favorite toy was right now. Lily looked up from her dolls and said loudly, "That's private information, Grandma. You shouldn't be nosy." Dottie's face went pale. Maeve's expression hardened immediately. She stood up and said she needed to talk to Adam and me privately. She said it in a tone that meant now. We followed her down the hall to our bedroom, and she closed the door firmly behind us. Maeve stood in the middle of our bedroom with her arms crossed. She looked at both of us and said Lily was clearly being manipulated by adults, and it was damaging her. She said she'd watched Dottie with other daughters-in-law over the years and seen her undermine them, but she'd never seen Dottie use a child as a weapon before. She said this needed to stop immediately before Lily suffered lasting harm. She told Adam he needed to set boundaries with his mother, or Lily would grow up confused about healthy relationships. She said children need stability and clear rules, not games where adults use them to hurt each other. Adam looked shocked and kept saying his mother wouldn't do that intentionally. Maeve cut him off and said intent didn't matter when a child was being hurt. The bedroom door burst open and Dottie stood there breathing hard. She must have followed us down the hall and listened outside. She pointed at me and said I was turning the whole family against her. She said I was controlling and manipulative and couldn't handle her close bond with her granddaughter. She told Maeve to stay out of our business because this was between her and me. Her voice got higher and louder with each word. She said I was trying to keep her from seeing Lily because I was jealous of their relationship. She called me selfish and mean and said Adam deserved better than a wife who tried to destroy his family. Maeve didn't back down. She stepped between Dottie and me. She said she'd watched Dottie whisper to Lily during dinner, and then smirk at me when Lily repeated whatever she'd been told. She said teaching a child to disrespect her mother wasn't bonding. It was cruel. She told Dottie she should be ashamed of herself for using a 4-year-old as a weapon in some petty war. She said grandparents were supposed to support parents, not undermine them. Dottie's face went from red to almost purple. She sputtered and tried to interrupt, but Maeve kept talking. Dottie turned on me with fury in her eyes. She demanded to know what lies I'd told Maeve to poison her against her own mother. I stayed calm even though my heart was pounding. I said I only told the truth about the words she taught Lily. I said she couldn't be upset about facts when there were witnesses, including Lily's preschool teacher. I reminded her that the teacher had called me concerned about Lily saying Grandma taught her bad words. I said the school was watching for signs of inappropriate influence and would report it if necessary. Dottie's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Adam stood frozen for a moment, then turned slowly to face his mother. He asked her directly if she really taught Lily to call me the B word. His voice was steady, but I could hear something different in it. Dottie opened her mouth and closed it again. She looked at me, then at Maeve, then back at Adam. She said maybe she'd said it once when she was frustrated with traffic. She claimed Lily must have misunderstood the context. Adam's face changed as she spoke. I watched him process her words and realized she was admitting it. He asked why she would say that word around Lily at all. Dottie tried to explain that she didn't mean for Lily to repeat it. She said kids overhear things sometimes and she couldn't control what Lily picked up. Maeve made a sound of disgust. She said Lily told her teacher that Grandma taught her the special word for when mommy is mean. She asked Dottie how a 4-year-old could be that specific if she'd just overheard something by accident. Dottie's face went red again and she grabbed her purse from the chair. She said she wasn't going to stand here and be attacked by everyone. She moved toward the bedroom door, but Maeve stepped in front of it. Maeve told her they were going to resolve this right now because she wouldn't watch her niece be damaged by this war. She looked at Adam and said he needed to protect his daughter and set real boundaries with his mother. She said if he couldn't do that, she would report the situation to Child Services herself. The room went completely silent. I felt my stomach drop even though I knew Maeve was right. Adam looked like someone had slapped him. He stared at his sister and asked if she was serious about calling Child Services. Maeve said she was completely serious because Lily was harmed. She said this wasn't about family loyalty anymore. It was about a child's well-being. Adam turned back to his mother, and I saw something break in his expression. He asked her why she would do this to Lily. His voice cracked on our daughter's name. Dottie's anger seemed to crumble all at once. Her face twisted and she started crying. She said she felt pushed out when Lily was born. She said I took Adam away from her and then had his baby. She said she felt replaced and forgotten. She kept crying and talking about how lonely she'd been. She said teaching Lily those words made her feel powerful. She said it made her feel connected to her granddaughter in a way I couldn't break. She said she didn't think about what it was doing to Lily. She said she only thought about getting back at me for stealing her son. I felt sick listening to her. Part of me felt good that she was finally admitting the truth. Part of me felt terrible because I'd been doing the same thing. I'd used Lily to hurt Dottie just like she'd used Lily to hurt me. Maeve looked at me with those sharp eyes. She asked me directly if I taught Lily to treat Dottie like she was old and feeble. Everyone turned to stare at me. Adam's face was already devastated from his mother's confession. Now he was looking at me, waiting for my answer. I couldn't lie with all of them watching me. I said yes. I said I taught Lily those things to show Dottie how it felt. I said I wanted her to know what it was like to have your own grandchild disrespect you. The words came out and I heard how bad they sounded. The room went completely quiet again. Adam looked at me like I was a stranger. His expression was worse than when he looked at his mother. I realized I'd become exactly what I hated about Dottie. I'd used our daughter as a weapon just like she had. Maeve shook her head slowly. She said we were both wrong and both harming Lily. She said we'd been using a 4-year-old child as a weapon in our personal war against each other. She told us Lily was going to need therapy to undo the damage we'd done. She said we needed to figure out how to be adults before we destroyed this child's sense of security and trust. She said Lily needed parents and grandparents who protected her, not people who used her to hurt each other. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Lily appeared in the doorway wearing her pajamas. Her face was red and wet with tears. She asked if she did something bad. Her voice was tiny and scared. She said she heard everyone yelling about her. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. She thought this was her fault. She thought she'd done something wrong when really it was me and Dottie who'd failed her. I dropped to my knees in front of her. I told her none of this was her fault. I said the grown-ups made mistakes and taught her wrong things. Adam came and knelt beside me. We both told her we were sorry for confusing her. We promised we were going to fix everything so she didn't have to worry anymore. She wrapped her arms around both our necks and cried. I held her and felt the weight of what I'd done to her. Over the next week, Adam and I searched for a family therapist. We needed someone who specialized in situations where children get caught between fighting adults. We made calls and explained our situation over and over. We found someone who could see us quickly. The therapist met with Adam and me separately first. She asked detailed questions about what we'd each taught Lily. She asked about Dottie's behavior and my response to it. She didn't judge, but she took a lot of notes. Then she met with Lily alone. I sat in the waiting room feeling anxious the whole time. When the therapist called us back in without Lily, her expression was serious. She said the damage was significant but not permanent. She said Lily was confused about who to trust and what behavior was acceptable. She said Lily had learned that adults use her to hurt each other. She said if we committed to real change, Lily could recover and learn healthy patterns. She said it would take work and consistency. She said Dottie would need to be involved in the therapy too if she wanted to maintain a relationship with Lily. She gave us homework and scheduled regular appointments. She said the most important thing was that Lily needed to see all the adults in her life working together to protect her, instead of using her as a weapon. I called Adam's work phone the next morning and told him we needed the therapist's recommendations in writing. The therapist sent over a detailed plan that afternoon with specific rules for Dottie's visits with Lily. All interactions had to happen in our home with either Adam or me present in the same room. Dottie couldn't whisper to Lily or make comments about me even when she thought we weren't listening. She had to speak to Lily in a normal voice that we could hear clearly. The therapist also required Dottie to attend her own counseling sessions every week to work on boundary issues and resentment toward me. I printed out the rules and drove to Dottie's house that same day. She opened the door and her face went hard when she saw me standing there with papers in my hand. I handed her the list and watched her read through it. Her hands started shaking and her face turned red. She looked up at me and her eyes were full of anger. She said this was ridiculous and I was trying to keep her away from her granddaughter. I told her these were the therapist's rules, not mine, and if she wanted to see Lily at all, she had to follow them. She asked what would happen if she refused. I said then she wouldn't see Lily until she agreed to the terms. She crumpled the paper in her fist and threw it at me. Then she started crying and said I'd turned her son against her and now I was taking away her granddaughter too. I picked up the crumpled paper and smoothed it out. I told her I wasn't taking anyone away, but I also wasn't going to let her keep hurting Lily. She could choose to follow the rules, or she could choose not to see Lily. I left the paper on her doorstep and walked back to my car. That evening, Adam called his mother and she agreed to the supervised visits. Her voice was tight with anger when she told him yes, but she said she'd do whatever it took to see Lily. The first supervised visit happened 3 days later at our house. Dottie arrived exactly on time and sat stiffly on our couch. Lily ran to her excited, but Dottie's hug was awkward and brief. I sat in the armchair across from them and watched every interaction. Dottie asked Lily about preschool, and Lily talked about her art project. Dottie nodded and smiled, but I could see the effort it took her to act normal. She didn't whisper anything to Lily or make any comments about me. After an hour, she left without saying goodbye to me. The real work started with Lily the next day. I sat down with her at the kitchen table while she colored and told her we needed to talk about Grandma. I said the things I taught her about Grandma being old and forgetful were wrong. I explained that Grandma wasn't feeble and didn't need extra help walking or understanding things. Lily looked confused and asked why I told her those things if they weren't true. I took a deep breath and admitted I made bad choices because I was angry at Grandma. I said sometimes grown-ups do wrong things when they're upset, and I was sorry for teaching her to be mean to Grandma. Lily put down her crayon and asked if she was in trouble. I told her no, she wasn't in trouble, but we needed to learn better ways to treat people. Over the next few weeks, I had similar conversations with Lily about respect and kindness. The therapist met with us weekly and helped me explain things in ways Lily could understand. It was hard admitting my mistakes to my 4-year-old daughter, but the therapist said honesty was the only way to help her learn healthy behavior. 3 months passed slowly with weekly supervised visits and therapy sessions. Family dinners started happening again, but they felt strained and uncomfortable. Dottie followed all the rules and didn't whisper manipulative things to Lily anymore. She spoke normally and didn't make comments about me, but I could see the resentment in her eyes every time she looked at me. She smiled at Lily and asked appropriate questions, but her body language stayed tense the whole visit. I knew she saw the same wariness in my eyes when I looked at her. We were both being careful and controlled, but the anger underneath hadn't gone anywhere. Adam sat between us at dinner, trying to keep conversation flowing, but the silences were long and awkward. Lily seemed happier, though, and didn't use inappropriate words anymore. Her preschool teacher called me one afternoon and said she'd noticed a big improvement in Lily's behavior and language. The teacher said whatever we were doing at home was working, and she was glad to see the change. Adam and I started going to couples therapy too because the trust between us had cracked. He admitted he should have listened to me earlier about his mother, and I admitted I went too far in my revenge. We were rebuilding slowly, but it took effort every single day. Our relationship with Dottie would never be warm or comfortable, but we'd established boundaries that actually protected Lily. I learned that winning a war against your mother-in-law means nothing if you damage your child in the process. Sometimes the best victory is just keeping your family intact and functional, even when it's messy and imperfect, and everyone involved still carries resentment they'll probably never fully let go of.